Don't care what people say. All I wanna do is live for today and get ready to be surprised. Now it's time to let it all go. Feel the love is all there is to know, and get ready to be surprised. I don't care about the past. Old memories turn to dust. Baby, get ready to be surprised. Nothing's gonna stop me anymore. I'm driving on a road I've never seen before. Get ready to be surprised. To be surprised. Be surprised.
Hi, everybody. This is Richard Sachs. I'm your host on Lost Arts Radio, and we've got an incredible opportunity tonight to talk to a returning friend of ours, Mads Palsvig, from Denmark. And we had him on the show about 4 months ago, and he was one of those people within the main system, even within the banking system as a former investment banker. Some of the stories from whom at the higher levels have been quite amazing. And he didn't get to that level, fortunately for him, and was able to do some other things. And one of them was to run for office for a member of parliament in Denmark about 4 months ago. And we never got to talk to him after that to see what happened and what's going on in his country now and what his plans are for the future, what he's been going through since the election. And this is a great chance to do that. So finally we got to sit down and talk about it. So welcome, Mads. I'm really glad you're here, and it's going to be an interesting discussion.
Thanks a lot, Richard. I'm glad to be back.
Why don't you, for the people that are listening that didn't know about the first time, why don't you kind of tell about the background that you came out of and why you ended up running for office and what happened with that?
Yeah, my background is I'm a former investment banker from Morgan Stanley and Credit Suisse, First Boston and Barclays. I worked in London and Hong Kong for a number of years. Basically, it started dawning on me that maybe the investment banking industry was not all fine and dandy. And that was a tough blow. Tough blow.
Yeah.
It really was, because I always thought it was a noble job to be be an interim between lenders and savers, pension funds and governments, pension funds funding the government's deficit, and I was a facilitator of that because I was trading government bonds. I was one of the biggest government bond traders of Scandinavian bonds, but also German and English and Southern European bonds, even American and Japanese bonds. Okay. And of course, derivatives on that, futures, swaps, options, exotic options, everything. So it was a very interesting job. I loved it. And if only the world was run by nice people, I wouldn't want another job. I really enjoyed it.
Money can do tremendous good things.
It could, yeah, it could. And so that's my main reason for starting to run for office was I found out that the people who decide the size of the monetary base in each country are the banks, and not the government, not the people. In every single country, except for Libya, until they killed the Gaddafi.
Yeah, they took care of that, though.
And Iran, which is why they want war with Iran now.
Right.
And Cuba and North Korea, I think, something like that. And also Sudan, and they, of course, also attack that country. So basically, that's really outrageous when you realize that the banks not only decide who gets to become rich and poor, because let's say you and I wanted to start a competing Starbucks franchise, we would need a lot of funding, and they would say no to us, and maybe say yes to Joe Smith down the road. Mm-hmm. And so the banks decide 100% who becomes rich and who don't. Yeah. Right. So So that's a huge power. But on top of that, they are the ones creating the monetary base. It's outrageous. And they do that because money at the moment is debt. So the more debt we take on, the more growth in the economy, the more jobs, the more wealth creation, the better the equity market will go. And then when they start to call back their loans like they did in 2008, then the market collapsed. And they know that. They know that in advance. So every single recession and every single growth in the economy has been created by banks, not by the governments.
One of the things that you mentioned, I don't want you to lose that train of thought, but just so that everybody understands the magnitude of one of many things that you said there. You said the banks create the monetary base, and I think that that's something that most people have no idea that that's even an issue. You know, they don't think about where the money originates. They just think that it's kind of there and everybody's trading it for goods and services, and that's as far as it goes. But actually, if somebody could create the money, they'd have like a big advantage over everybody else in the world, right?
Absolutely, definitely.
Power.
And, I mean, I don't want to be rude or anything, but I mean, a long time ago, I stopped asking people what they believe money is, because you have no idea. They say it's the GDP, it's the salary we get. It's like it's all over. Right. I have no idea, and that's by design. Yeah. Because you could very, very easily explain to people that money can be created as debt by the banks when we borrow money with the present system, where you go down and you borrow. Let's say you borrow $10,000. You write an IOU, $10,000. That's you creating money, and the bank is rubber stamping that money. As long
this is a really big deal. It's like you're speaking a very foreign language, like from another planet.
Yeah,
you know, I'm trying to
something that we all should understand and really should focus and pay attention to. We really should know this.
Let's look at this one little thing. You know, which you said that when you write an IOU, let's say you go to the bank and you want to borrow money. Yeah. Most people imagine the bank is just, you know, these benevolent or at least neutral people that have a whole bunch of money, and so they decided to lend it to people to help them. Yeah. And so when you go into the bank and you want $10,000 for a car.
Yeah. They create new money. The money is not
it's not like they're taking it out of the vault and say, okay, yeah, it looks like we have 10,000 $1 bills. We'll put those in hundreds and give them to you.
No, that's not how it is.
The money is not in the bank.
No.
So what happens?
It's called fractional reserve banking. So let's say for every $1,000 they have, either in equity or in deposit, they can then issue 10 times more. Roughly, maybe even 12 times more.
We should stop for an hour and let people have that one statement sink in. If they have $1,000, they can lend 10,000 or whatever.
More, 12,000 basically.
Yeah, 12. Yeah. I mean, most people either that would brush right by them, or they would not have any idea what you just said. What does that mean?
Well, it basically means that what's very important is if you go down and want to borrow, let's say, $10,000,
right?
They do not have that money in their vault. They don't. They literally write a number 1 and 4 zeros after it in your account, and they create brand new money. And they are allowed to create money because of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. So they're allowed to do it, but it could be, and then you have to pay the money back with interest, which has not been created.
And something similar to the Federal Reserve Act in the other countries, right? Because the Federal Reserve Act is just for America.
It's in Denmark, and actually, the Federal Reserve is your third privately owned central bank, because the Federal Reserve is not government, even though they lie. They call it federal, but it's not government.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, they lie about everything. They even say to you that you deposit money. No, you don't. You are making an unsecured loan to a bank. And the bank, they normally go bust every 25 years, right? So it's really not very clever to deposit money in the bank. But we all do it, yeah, because what else gonna do, yeah? But they call it, they lie with the language. So you think deposit, it's my money, I put it in the bank, it's my money. Yes, you can come and take it out, unless they do a bail-in, which they've done in Cyprus and in a couple of other countries. And even in Sweden now, they have prepared the legislation so they can do it anytime they want. I can show you videos where the government officials and the members of the Swedish central bank are admitting that if there was a financial crisis, they would just take people's deposit.
Okay, you said that when you drive up to the ATM, for example, and you put $100 in there, and you say, I just saved my money so that I can come get it whenever I want.
Yeah.
You said that's an unsecured loan that I'm making to the bank.
To the bank.
Where's the written contract?
The bank can go belly up and take all your money, and there's nothing you can do. What are you gonna do? They give the money. The money when they go bust. They give they give the money to of course the deposit holders, but and then they pay off the bond holders. But you could risk all your money when you are depositing. So because it's not a deposit, it's an unsecured loan.
Okay, so my question is, if it's an unsecured loan, a contract, at least in America and probably other places, is not valid unless there is something that each side is getting and they know they're in the contract. If there's no agreement, there's no contract. So what's the agreement? Where is it?
Well, it's all fraud, but I mean, they have the guns, right?
Okay.
Same guys, they own the judicial system, the politicians, the media. Above all, they own the mainstream media. I mean,
so they're just ignoring the law.
They're ignoring the law. I mean, it's impossible for me to get in the media in Denmark and explain this. I just explained here. It's impossible, absolutely impossible. The only people they allow to come into the media is the Danish version of Positive Money. There's an organization in England called Positive Money, and we have an equivalent here in Denmark. And they are allowed to come in because they are proposing that the house prices should go back to 2004 level, which means that basically 80% of the Danish population would be bust, because with the house prices have doubled or tripled in 2004. Can you imagine? So you have like an 80% mortgage and house prices go down by 60%. Then you are underwater in your mortgage. So nobody wants to have the money I'm explaining. And the money I am explaining is money not created as debt by the banks when they lend money, but money created as credit by the government. The way that Abraham Lincoln won the American Civil War by issuing greenbacks, basically saying, this is American money, and you can use this to pay your tax. It's good. It's legal tender. Go for it. And they issue that. And even though the English banksters copied it, counterfeited it in London and sent it out in the market to make this currency invaluable, it only devalued by I think 60% during the Civil War. So it was a huge success, and it was the main reason, I believe, why they actually won it. And also John F. Kennedy for a few months issued money out of the Ministry of Finance called US dollars. If you take a $1 note, it says a Federal Reserve note.
Right.
But actually, if you can find, and they're still in the money supply, you can find a dollar saying US dollar. Those are the few dollars that were issued by John F. Kennedy's Ministry of Finance in 1963.
Right. There was a big difference, though, between what Kennedy issued and what Lincoln issued, because Kennedy issued money backed by silver, and it could not be devalued.
No,
it can't have any inflation.
Okay, yeah, that's
so
true.
He obviously had to be killed. Not only that, there were some other things he was threatening to expose.
Well, there were a lot of reasons. Yeah, he had a lot of enemies. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the degree of corruption and dishonesty is way more than the conspiracy theory people imagine.
Yeah.
I think it can be overwhelming to people that when they first find out.
True.
When did you start finding out all this?
Well, it was really very gradual, right? I mean, my first shock was in 1996 when a Jewish banker from New York, a business associate I traded government bonds with, when he told me that a lot of interns under Bill Clinton were killed or committed suicide, and also their boyfriends committed suicide.
Yeah.
And these were interns like Monica Lewinsky. So you can look into how many interns died during Bill Clinton. That could be interesting to research.
Right.
But apparently there were a lot. And I thought, that's strange. And that kind of made me wonder a little bit what was going on. And now obviously you have all these videos you can see, but just look up into Clinton murders or Clinton killings. And I mean, they're all over YouTube, where documentaries about the enormous amount of people who have been killed, who have been working with the Clintons. So that was the first one. And the second one was I was shopping in Harrods in London, and all of a sudden I stumbled over a few books of David Icke.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, everything he writes is based on fact, except for the part about reptilians. I don't know why he put that in it. Maybe it was in order for him to survive, I guess. Because now everybody can say, yeah, but he talks about reptilians. So, which means that, of course, all the other facts he says are wrong.
Right. And it's not because they know the reptilian stuff is wrong. It's just that they can't verify it.
Yeah, it cannot be verified.
And in general, his research is incredible.
It is.
Amazing. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And I have no idea whether there are reptilians or not. It sounds incredible, but who knows? But
so does what you're talking about.
Yeah, it does, but that can be easily verified. When we talk about what the stuff I'm saying about the Federal Reserve, and you don't want to know that, the person will be called ignorant, which means information that is easily available, and you don't want to know it. Then you are an ignorant person. However, with regards to reptilians, you are nascent. Because you don't have, how are you going to prove it? How are you going to find out? It's impossible.
All you can say is, I don't know. Yeah. The honest answer is we have no way of telling whether it's true or not unless you meet one. And if you meet one and they go away, you're not going to be able to prove it either.
No, that's right.
But the stuff you're talking about, the people who prove it get in trouble sometimes.
True.
So you started finding out, and did you read some of David Icke's books? Yeah,
I read quite a few of David Icke's books, and to my surprise, my friends in the banking industry, when I talked about it over a number of beers and expensive red wine, they were not very interesting. They were not very keen on listening to it. They really didn't want to know.
Wow.
They didn't want to know that all the presidents in America have been related to the European royalty.
Right.
Yeah, either what's his name, the Great of France, something called the Great of France, or yeah. So they didn't want to know, and that most of them have been Freemasons, 33rd degree. They didn't want to know that either. But all that, it was like, well, then it's not a democracy really, because if it's only royalty that is elected as president in America, not really a real democracy, is it?
Well, it must have shocked you that they didn't want to know.
It does. I mean, it still surprises me the amount of resilient and people fighting to avoid any kind of knowledge. It's unbelievable. They don't want to know. They insist on being ignorant. Really, they really do. I mean, and we're talking about the vast majority of people.
Yeah. So what at this point? What do you think explains that?
God, I have no idea. I mean, it's a huge question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really don't know why, because I've always been so curious all my life. So I don't understand why they don't want to know. And now with the 5G rollout, they're going to die. We're all going to die. That's how it is. And that's why we are now suing the Danish government. We have now raised a lot of money. And we found a lawyer, and we're going to sue the government now to stop the rollout of 5G. Because it's genocide, basically. So
what part of the government do you sue for that?
I don't know which ministry is in charge of that, honestly. I think 5G actually is under the Ministry of Defense, to be honest. At least they do. I think it is. It might be the Ministry of Defense.
Well, it's another example, like you're saying, that I'm sure in virtually every country that has any coherent system of laws, they're breaking the law by doing it. For one thing, because if they are signatory to the Geneva Convention, it violates informed consent.
Yeah.
Among other things.
Yeah, and you can't make studies on human beings unless they all give consent to it, and yeah.
Right, but they have enough studies on animals to know that it's extremely damaging.
Oh yes.
Right,
yes.
and so right there, it's not fully informed consent.
No, definitely not. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. It's horrible, and now we even have the royal family of Denmark coming out proposing that everybody should be vaccinated, like the entire.
Yeah, that's boy. There's all these parallel agendas.
It's all out attack on all areas at the same time. I think that's probably why it's overwhelming. It's blitzkrieg.
Exactly right.
Blitzkrieg. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. What in German or Danish? What's the exact definition of blitzkrieg, so that people will know?
Blitzkrieg was the name of the German strategy to attack really fast with their tanks, and just go through the enemy lines with tanks. And just keep going, but many more kilometers than the enemy would expect, and just keep pushing a lot of enemies of horses through that area, just breaking down everything, and then maybe surrounding the enemies. So you go through the enemy line and you go around it, and then all of a sudden they can't get any reinforcements, and
right. And they're not talking about blitzkrieg with one or two tanks. They use a whole lot of tanks, right?
Definitely on the same spot.
So in the analogy, one of the tanks is 5G, one of the tanks is poisoning the water, vaccines, all these different things, and it's slowly becoming illegal to talk about these things.
Fake news media, political correctness, the universities who are proposing these ridiculous, idiotic things about LGBT and transgender and climate hoax and all that stuff. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
That you were becoming so aware of all these parallel agendas that you wanted to do something about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I definitely want to do something about it.
And when you ran for office, what were you going to do about it?
Well, I thought that if you could make a political program which basically explains how we have as our key issues how it should be, and we propose it in a way that's very difficult to say no to. All our key issues, I'm sure, the vast majority of the population would vote yes in a referendum. Mm-hmm. So obviously, if we had a fair treatment in the media, we would become a very, very big political party. So I just want to come out with all the facts and all the good ideas of a sound economic system, and all the truth about the agenda. It's basically a war on humanity that's going on at the moment.
Yeah, and probably all the other life forms on the planet, because 5G is not just against humans.
No, true. There's also nature and insects and animals, definitely.
Even trees and plants and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I realized eventually was that this is not just population reduction so that the elite can just have the world for themselves. If it was, they would be saving nature, and they're not. This is extermination of everything.
It's very sinister. I'm afraid I've come to the same conclusion. Yeah.
Most people don't agree with me on that, and they say, no, they wouldn't kill themselves. And I'm saying, yeah, they would. And this is exactly clearly what they're doing. This is like a sacrifice ritual that they intend to throw their own bodies on at the end. And I think when you look at the documents of the elite, so-called elite running this stuff, that they believe in the doctrine of sacrifice. And they also, which is in many of the scriptures, in that if you kill an innocent being exactly correctly, that God is really happy with you and you get a lot of spiritual benefit. And I think the spiritual benefit they want is to live with this dark energy that they're worshiping forever, and they can do that in cyberspace. They don't need their bodies. And it's so far different than what the population would conceive of, that they don't really have to hide it very much.
That's true. I mean, also we have seen a lot of sects, religious sects, committing suicide together, right? I mean, like the Jones in was it Guyana, where 200 people killed themselves by drinking poison. So, I mean, if 200 people can do it, if 500 people can do it, you know, it's a lot of people can do it. And also we have a lot of examples of people who are really, really angry with their life. And maybe they had a horrible childhood, were abused, whatever, and then they go through a whole life of anger and they're total psychopaths and so on, and become very powerful. Yeah. And if the number one guy in the top had a horrible life, it is beyond very plausible that he would, when he's 105 and he's not going to be able to have another heart transplant after the 7 he already has had, that he might, just wipe the board of all the chess breaks, right?
Yeah, exactly. At least take everybody with him.
Yes, of course. And if he has all the money in the world, and he can, do whatever he wants to, and if he has all the surveillance, he knows who is the enemy and so on.
Yeah,
it's very easy. And
I think the money motivation is only used to keep the corporate servants doing their jobs. But at the top level where they are creating the money, they're not after money. That's not the point.
They have all the money. They create them themselves. It's not important. I mean, if you look at what a lot of the things they're using is the tool. The fact is that most people, including myself, all people, we do not understand big numbers, basically. So we're used to counting up to 100, maybe 200, because that's how many animals we would have
on a farm.
On the farms for hundreds and thousands of years. So when you have a big multinational corporation who is saying that they made a $3 billion profit, for example, we think, oh my God, they're making so much money. Well, actually, it's nothing. If you're considering a corporation that has, that is in every single country, and almost every single person in the world is using their product. Yeah. Then 2 or 3 billion is really not a lot. It's like
that would be a slow year. They'd wonder what's wrong, what happened.
Yeah, and that's because they're not after money, right? They are after control.
Right.
So these corporations can go on forever without making any money, because they always know they can just tap into the money creation facility. That's why you see them overpaying their CEOs, because they're not really interested in the shareholders, really. They're not interested in benefiting the shareholders. The shareholders will make money when the equity market goes up, but they don't make any money out of dividends, do they? Right? Because that's not what they want. So it's all about control, and it's about destroying the competition, so that more and more of the production capacity is controlled by fewer and fewer corporations. That's
happening in almost every industry actually right now.
Precisely.
I mean, in America, first it was happening with Walmart, and then now Walmart's being overtaken by Amazon. And everything's going online, which the convenience traps everybody, and then they become dependent and controllable.
Yes.
So when you were running for office, you had coherent explanations of all these things, and like you said, everybody should have understood it and voted for it. So what's your current understanding of what happened and why that wasn't?
Obviously, I didn't get into the media at all. I was taking part in a few public debates in Copenhagen, like 3 or 4, and on every single debate, there were more than half of the audience were from my political party. So I had a huge support, but if you don't get into the media, it's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the media in all these countries, I notice it. Certainly in America, but other places too. The media is one of the main forces working against the public, trying to keep them unaware of everything, it seems.
Definitely. If we ever have democracy ever in the West,
yeah,
and we will have a new Nuremberg process, then the media executives, they should go to jail for many years.
Yeah, I mean, the top executives of most of these global corporations are in that category, I think.
True.
And some of them are being, like the one that you mentioned, is being given in America total immunity for liability protection.
Yeah, right. Even within the 5G, the Telecom Act of 1996 has given the telecom industry, what's the word? Immunity from prosecution for any damage done to people's health. So
they said you can't even object on the basis of health or environment. At least that's the understanding.
Well, and also in the 80s or 90s, there's legislation in the US that you can't sue the vaccine producers if they kill your family or maim them. Or
86. And they figure that about 1% of the people who get injured in that process find this fake court that they set up to make it almost impossible to collect any compensation. And even though it's almost impossible and only 1% find it, they've given out more than $4 billion for injury and death so far. But I guess the media hasn't had time to talk about that yet.
No, they're not interested.
So do you think the lack of media coverage was one of the primary reasons that the election wasn't possible to...
Yeah, for sure. If I may quote Jordan Belfort, the famous salesperson, Wall Street trader or salesperson from the movie Wall Street,
Yeah.
DiCaprio played him in the great movie. And Jordan Belfort, he's now training people to become salespeople, and he says that you need three things to sell them something. And first, of course, you need to get your client to like the product. That's number one. It's pretty obvious.
All right.
But two other things you need to ensure as well, otherwise you can't sell. And the second thing is you need to make sure the audience like you. The buyer of your product, he has to like you. And then the third thing is that the buyer has to like the company. So in my case, the product is of course our key issues, our 31 key issues.
Okay.
Everybody likes them. You can't put a finger on any of that, right? So obviously the strategy is not to talk about that at all. Then you need to like me as a person. So they write some very hostile and articles and very unfriendly, call me names and so on.
Yeah.
In the newspaper. So when you Google me in Denmark, you see mainstream media with one article only that I am like this crazy guy, whatever. So they destroy that. So the people who like to vote for me, they like everything they read about the political party. It's hands down the best political party ever in Denmark. And they probably agree with that. But they don't like me because the mainstream media they've trusted their entire life says I'm a naughty guy, I'm a very, very bad person. And then the third thing is, of course, our political party. So they also attack that. So we are now a sect, or we are, like Jehovah's Witnesses, or we are like, which is far from the truth. We have people from every single political party in Denmark. We have like from the extreme right who want to throw out all the immigrants over to the extreme left communists who want to have, equal pay and everybody. We have like from every single party, and they've all come together in our party saying, guys, hey, there are real solutions to our problems. We can find a mutual beneficial solution that can bring everybody together, even from the extreme right to the extreme left. And they don't tell that story, right? So what they're doing is very, very clever. They know what they're doing. You gotta admit it. They know
and
what they're doing.
If you pay people enough, they're willing to do pretty much anything. A lot of them.
They are, because they say, Mads is gonna he's gonna give up anyway. If I don't destroy him, then someone else will destroy him. Okay, and that's what's going on. So the fact is that people cannot see through this scam. They don't understand it. They don't.
I think it's too scary to imagine that there could be a scam that big.
Yeah, it is.
Because if that's true, what else is true?
They're gonna die with the 5G. They really need to wake the. I'm not
That's
gonna
pretty
swear, but
serious because
this would have been a good moment to make a swear word, actually.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of serious if something is like 5G is going to kill everybody, because you can't do as much in the physical world if you're not in a physical body anymore. It's a very serious issue. So did they, in America, if you're proposing something that's really good, they call you a racist and xenophobe and homophobe and you're a misogynist, and you raped people your whole life and it's just being discovered now.
Yeah.
I guess it's similar, right? I mean, it's maybe not to that degree quite, but enough to make it out that you're a really bad person.
Yeah. They call me a conspiracy theorist and so on.
Okay, yeah, that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and now, they're just deleting people from social media.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was happening to you during the campaign or not.
No, they don't want to do that because that would probably be too obvious. So what they've done instead is they've been ghost banning my posts, so nobody gets them.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. And so that was, 4 months ago? Something like that?
Yeah, it was in the beginning of June.
Okay.
And I mean, they did so much to stop me. Even they have a kind of a sense of humor. I gotta admit it, because we have about 100,000 Freemasons in Denmark. And if I had been a Freemason, alphabetically, my name, Palsvig, on the exact spot where that is, there's a name, Paludan. P-A-L-U. Not P-A-L-S, but P-A-L-U, okay? And this guy, he had fewer signatures than I had 3 months before the election. He's an extreme right-wing guy. He wants to throw out all foreigners of Denmark. He's burning the Quran. He's absolutely crazy. And this guy, he had fewer signatures than our political party 3 months before. And then all of a sudden, funny enough, the media decided to put him on television every single day. So in a month, he had the 20,000 signatures needed, and his political party were in all the debates for the whole month.
Yeah, right? But that's because the media figures that he's going to make people see how totally crazy and extreme everybody but the major parties are.
Exactly. It's to make the two major parties, the Social Democrats and the right-wing party called Venstre, though it's to make them, compared to Paludan, they're really, really nice people, right?
Yeah,
and then they to make sure that nobody would focus on my political party, they also had another guy who's quite a well-known man a businessman. His name is Claus Riskær Pedersen. He made a political party called his own name. This guy has been in jail 10 years for defrauding a French pension fund. So he's clearly a crook, and so they took him to television as well, nonstop.
Yeah, I would guess that they would like him a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So that means that all the and he had two issues he stole from me. One of them was the politicians are all lying, and the other one was corporations pay too little tax and humans pay too much. So he took two of my key issues, blew them out of proportion, and then he was put into the media. So that means that all the focus that would have gotten into our political party went to these two horrible guys that nobody likes. And then that was made to make, thank God we have this nice cozy political parties. We have the blue party, we have the red party, and they're much better than these two outrageous boys,
So, I guess, as long as that's in place, there are other things that work with that too. I've discovered is that they have electronic hacking of the voting machines unless they have all paper ballots. And
we don't have voting machines in Denmark.
What happened in the U.S. before they had voting machines is they had paper ballots, but they took them all to a secret basement. And there were a couple of guys called the Collier brothers that wrote a book about this called Vote Scam USA. Yeah. And they took them there where nobody could see. They had armed guards keeping people away. And they hired a group to go in there and change the votes.
Yeah.
But now it's much more convenient. They can do it electronically. But you guys,
I think that they might have done that in Denmark, because it sounds very strange. The amount of votes I had were a lot smaller than we expected. We had a huge turnout on the different events we went to, and as I said, we were more than half of the audience. 3 times I was out in a debate, and I mean, we had a whole page ads in 2 newspapers. We had buses with advertising on, 20 buses riding around for 8 weeks.
So you had some good financial support to pay for a lot of advertising and stuff.
I didn't have a lot, but we had just members of the party donating what they could. So okay. we had enough to make sure that people saw us, and we went out in the streets, we talking to people. We had 2,000 placards with my picture on it in our area. So we did a huge effort. Yeah, people.
How many debates were you in?
I only managed to get into 3 or 4. I mean, most debates they didn't want to have me along, have me there. Yeah.
How many people in a typical debate? How many candidates?
Then we would have from 12 or 13 different political parties would be there. Yeah.
Wow, and you had more than half the audience in that many candidates.
Definitely, it was very. They were very visible, and you could also hear them whenever I was talking. It was like in a football match. I was on the home turf. Yeah.
Wow. And who was leading the debate, and who was, asking the questions, and who organized it, and all that?
Well, one of them was another political party. Another one. 2 of the other ones were by a local newspaper in Northern Zealand. They had one in a shopping mall. They had another one in a library, and it was quite embarrassing when you have like a minister coming there, and he had his girlfriend and 1 or 2 people. You know. It was really embarrassing. They don't have any public support whatsoever. Nobody could be bothered to turn up.
Wow, interesting. That's very similar to what happened in 2016 in the U.S., because the current president probably won by 4-1 or something like that. But because we have all the hacking, and we have the media going on, and we have all this stuff, and we have the social media, I think it was the hacking that took it down to probably, barely winning, and they were shocked because they thought they had shut it down. Yeah. But this time in America, we've got social media so much more organized that they could have, probably a 2-year-old kid with the worst policies in the world, and they would win, because it's just whoever gets manipulated into that position.
Yeah.
It's a fairly serious situation.
And it's quite public that Google made a lot of fraud and moved a lot of votes and influenced it. And then what they do is, they always have this agenda. Look over here, the Russians did it.
I know.
Did it, yeah?
Yeah.
Did everything,
And that was so sophisticated and smart, because the Russians had been working openly with the other party, actually, to steal, uranium interests and all kinds of things like that. And
even worse, it was even the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. And that wasn't the Russian top of the government. It wasn't Putin. That was all made up so that they would switch it completely. And they're still doing it. They're still trying to do it now.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And here, these people are so nasty. It's beyond understanding of the average normal person.
True.
So they may have something like that they used to have in the U.S. before we got more advanced. Now we can change all the votes electronically, and Google was on video saying that they can just send out a go vote reminder to only the party they want to win, and it costs them nothing, and they can swing 15 million votes that way in the U.S.
Yeah.
And, they're confident they can do that in 2020. Yeah. But for you, they had to do it in paper ballots, so they might have had something like they had in the U.S. before the automation, which was, I think they used League of Women Voters and some other people to go and secretly count and change the votes on paper ballots and say, well, sorry, it looked like you had a landslide, but you didn't get any votes, especially in these places where, you had most of the people. Somehow you had no votes, just the way it went, and something may have happened.
It's very strange. I mean, I only got the amount of votes that are receiving our newsletter. And it sounds strange, because we have handed out more than 100,000 flyers in person, where we were in the street for 8 months, from October till June. So more than 8 months. We were in the street every single day, handing out flyers, talking with people. More than 100,000 people we managed to talk to, and not a single one of them voted for me.
They decided you were a bad person. And how many? All of them, yeah. It's amazing coincidence, yeah. And how many active voters are in Denmark?
I think it's a little more than 3 million, 3 point something, yeah.
Okay, and you got how many votes?
Well, they could only vote for me in an area with 300 something thousand people, and I got 0.3% of the vote. I got 880 votes.
Wow. It's 880 out of 100,000 that you handed out, flyers and things like that.
Yes, and the 880 is, I mean, we have more members of the party, and people have liked our Facebook, and people are receiving our newsletter. So it sounds... Yeah.
They just lost some of the votes somewhere. They don't know what happened.
Yeah, it could be election fraud. I don't know. I can't prove it, and there's no way. I mean, even if I say it's election fraud, most people just say, "Yeah, you're just sour grapes,"
Exactly. Everybody.
I'm only going to say it to you, Richard, and your friends.
I was saying, after the election, and you saw what happened, how did that affect the development of a new understanding and strategy for you?
Well, we now have decided to go out and talk to people, and maybe make some kind of a study on what their views are on different various topics. And then we hope that they agree with our point of view, and if they do, then we will introduce them to our political party. So that's what we're doing now in the street. So that we actually we're trying to target more people to become members of our party now.
Okay, and tell us again, what's the official name of the party in English?
In English, it would be Earth, Freedom, Knowledge. So basically, the reason behind it is because you can actually look at every single problem in the world and say, if it's good for the earth, okay, and then it has to give you the maximum amount of freedom without taking away other people, nature, or animals' freedom.
Right.
And then the third is it has to be based on facts, knowledge, and wisdom, which is trivium, obviously. Yeah.
Wow.
So these three things, if you can say that, then it's our key issue most likely. Yeah? So that's why we've chosen this way, because it has to be, people have to really wake up to the reality that it's almost everything that is wrong. It's the medical system, it's the educational system, it's the military industrial complex, it's the way that we create money. I mean, it's absolutely everything.
Pretty much.
That is suboptimal. And now I'm being nice.
Yeah, suboptimal is very polite.
As a politician.
Right. Okay, so what are the activities of the party now?
So we're having a camp where we're going to meet up and discuss and talk and brainstorm. And so basically, and then we go out on the street. And basically, for the 11th of September, one of our members got arrested because he wouldn't give his full name. We went out to Danmarks Radio, like BBC, so our main broadcasting station. And we made a big painting of the Twin Towers and Tower 7 with chalk, because it's legal to paint with chalk. And now we've done it now for the good part of a whole year now. So we're really
like where? Paint where?
In the street.
Like on the ground?
On the ground.
Okay.
So you can make political statements with chalk on the ground, wherever there's public access, private or public, you can do it. You cannot do it I cannot come into your home and your personal ground and do it. Okay. But if you own a shopping mall and you give public access, I can do it there.
Okay.
Outside. It has to be outside so that it will disappear next time it rains. Yeah.
Sure.
But we now found out a method to mix chalk with water. We have a machine that goes around, blends it up really well, and it looks 100% like paint. It looks like white paint.
Wow.
But it disappears when it rains. So we went out to the Danmarks Radio, our BBC, and we wrote two planes, 3 towers. How old are you? ?
Yeah, because 3 is bigger than 2, right? That's a basic concept there. Okay.
And basically, not even 3 planes could get one of the towers to collapse. We don't want to go into that. That'll give people headache. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened with that?
Yeah, so we did that, and the police came again, and they've been there. This time, only 2 persons. We've been there 7 or 8 times. So the first time they came, the police came. They came 10 men and women with armored vests and machine guns, and they came in 4 big cars and so on. And we were waiting for them on the parking lot because we knew they would come. Yeah, we could just have gone because it was slow. We did it very early in the morning, and I said to people, we have to dress up. We were 11 or 12 people, and we are all dressed up. So we had like a guy who's 75. We used to run a factory with a suit and a hat, and we had a lady, 50-year-old former pilot of SAS, with long leather boots and dress and everything, and people were in suit. They were coming here, so we had people in all ages. You know, of course, obviously we had a few of the typical men in the 30s who were, you know, but they had dressed up. So the police came and they saw these people all dressed up, and they are committing this. They thought vandalizing. You know? Yeah. And they sued us. They said, we're gonna sue you for vandalizing the property. But then after months, they realized they had to give up because it's just, and they gave up. We have it in writing that they've given up because it was just chalk and water.
Okay.
And but both then the first time, but also on last Wednesday, on the 11th of September, they arrested one person because in our law it says you have to give up your name and your birth date, and he did that, but no, he wouldn't give his surname because name is not surname. Name is your first name, and in Denmark you have name and surname.
So legally, it doesn't say the surname.
No, just your first name and your birthday, and he did that. So they took him in, and they made him wait for an hour. Then they undressed him, and they were really nasty to him, as in abusing him in terms of shouting abuse, calling him insane and a sick person and disgusting. 5 big policemen shouting at him naked while he was naked.
Wow.
And they groped him, those pigs.
Wow.
Yeah, they groped him as well. Bastards.
Back to the Third Reich, basically.
Basically, that's what it is, yeah. Basically, that's what it is. And they had to let him go, and he didn't give his surname.
That was a pretty strong guy.
He's a strong guy, I'll give you a clue. He's a strong guy. He did it on purpose. He wanted to do it.
Right.
So, wow. And then we moved on to Christiansborg, our parliament, yeah? And we went out in the front of the parliament, and we did the same thing again. And we painted the Twin Towers. We wrote 2 planes and 3 towers. How old are you? And then we started writing war propaganda is illegal. And we wrote a lot of stuff, yeah? And then the police came this time because it was the first time we were in front of Christiansborg. This was the first time we did it there was last Wednesday. And they came 10 police people, and they came shouting. They shouted at everybody except for me. They didn't shout at me.
Huh.
And I don't know why. But then the head guy, the Indsatsleader, who's the chief there, he came up to me and asked me, "Would I give you my name?" Yes, of course. And you know us. We've done this many times. You know it's legal. You've sued us once. You have given up. We're allowed to do this. You know that. Yeah, but I have to check that it really is chalk and water. And can I check that? He asked me, and I said, yes, you can. Then he called a fire engine. So a huge red fire engine came. You cannot believe this, yeah? A massive one.
Yeah.
And I thought it came to remove the chalk, obviously, right?
Right.
But it didn't. No, he then went up to this fire engine, and the fire engine checked that it really was something that would go away with water.
Right.
And then the fire engine just left again. And then for show, they kept us there standing for an hour. But we were waiting there anyway for our friend who was taken by the police. So we were waiting for him to come back to us. So we had agreed we will meet with him there. So we had to wait anyway.
Right.
So the police were standing waiting with us for an hour just for show. And then we had written a Retsopgør, which means basically we want to have a Nuremberg process. But we missed the R. In the last, we had the whole letter except the last, the whole word except the last letter. We missed the R, the letter R. And then they said, and then you have to go after that. And I said, yes, we will go, but we will write that letter. So they had to allow us to go back and write more. Well, they had to look at it as well.
Yeah.
So that was a small victory, and then we continued at the biggest train station in Denmark, where most people arrive in Copenhagen to go to work. So we went up there and wrote a lot of stuff there on the pedestrian streets, and we even told the police we would go there. So they came. They arrested our friend again, because he didn't want to give his name.
Right.
So and then after that, they went back to Danmarks Radio, our BBC, and for 3 hours. They couldn't call the police now because the police had been there once, so they had to allow us to be there. We then went up to the front entrance where all people are going in and out of Danmarks Radio, and we wrote a lot of stuff: 2 planes, 3 towers, and stuff like that. And it's war propaganda is illegal, and you have to live up to public service, blah blah blah. Everything we wrote. And then they came out. The guards came out from Danmarks Radio, came out and had to wash it off. Then we went back and wrote it again for 3 hours. So they were really tired of us. And I think everybody on Danmarks Radio, they know that we know that they're lying a lot. Yeah. And if we ever get into power, they're going to be in trouble, as in they will go to jail. Right.
Yeah, they have a lot of reasons to try to keep people telling the truth out of power, for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess there are future elections that you're looking at to try to build up to that over time, right? So when would the next one be? I mean, if you get into power, that has to be through an election.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, and it doesn't even have to be me. I mean, they just have to be someone who is a proper person, an ordinary citizen who want to do good for humans, the nature, and animals. It's not that hard. It's pretty obvious what needs to be done. Yeah. You should not, like vaccines, you should not inject formaldehyde and aluminum and other cancer-inducing substances into babies. You shouldn't do it. It's not very smart.
That should be pretty obvious.
Yeah, stuff like that. And if you have a guy like David Noakes in England, who cures cancer by producing a protein called GC-MAF, he should not go to jail. But the people who put him into jail, they should go to jail for life.
Yeah.
Because they are guilty of a lot of death. Because he cured 75% of people on stage 4 cancer. He cured 75% of them.
Right.
And he went to jail. They took all his money. They took all his equipment. They destroyed his business. And now they extradited his girlfriend to France because he produced GC-MAF in France and England. So both countries are after them. So now they took his girlfriend, sent her to France, extradited her. She's in jail. She didn't even have anything to do with the production of these things.
Right.
She was just involved, I think, bookkeeping or something like that. I can't remember. But it was definitely not. She was not producing any of the protein that cured the people.
Right.
Which they say is illegal. It's illegal to cure people.
Huh? I know. No, you can't do that here either. In fact, even to talk about curing is a conspiracy theory, because what you're supposed to do is manage disease so that you can stay on drugs.
Yeah.
If you cure how's that going to help the drug companies? It's not.
No, not really.
What was the last time you were in touch with them?
With David Noakes?
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I mean, I only met him at Ian R. Crane's AB10 conference. He has this huge open mind conference every year in May in Milton Keynes, between Birmingham and London.
Right.
So if your audience will Google Ian R. Crane,
he's been on our show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so has David. David has too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and I know all about it. Then sorry about that. Yeah, cool.
No, that's good. I mean, people listening may have never heard of it.
Yeah, exactly.
What David said is that they were being taken to France because the jail that they would go to is a lot worse. It was like some kind of a dungeon or something.
Yeah.
And also because in France, I think, if I remember right, you can stay in prison a lot longer without being convicted of anything.
I see. Vive la révolution.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I guess the party's work continues. And then just to clarify, the election that you were in for a member of parliament, that was Danish parliament, not the EU parliament, right?
No, that was Danish parliament. That's correct, yeah.
But Denmark's a member of the EU, correct?
Yeah, sadly it is, yeah.
So they have members of parliament coming out of Denmark who joined the EU parliament also, correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's a separate election.
Yeah, and that's kind of the non-representative government, I guess. Well, although you could call the other one the same thing if the elections are like what you're describing.
Yeah, it's a show. It's a red party and a blue party, and
right.
And then they're basically proposing that there is a cake, and we need to share the cake. And the red people say the cake is this big, and you can have more welfare, but then we have more taxes. And the blue people, they say, we agree, the cake is this big, but you can only have lower taxes if you have less welfare. So they basically agree, but it's not true. The cake can be much bigger. And our political party, we show that you can have both welfare and much lower taxes. In fact, you can remove income tax, you can remove corporate tax, and have more welfare at the same time.
Whether it's a zero-sum game and how it works is really important, right? Because most of the cake is actually being eaten by the central bank right now.
Yeah, and or thrown out, or put into a Cayman Island, or Panama, or
Yeah.
It's just destruction. I mean, when you have work to be done and you have people who are capable of working sitting idle, the system is not working for the benefit of the people.
We have the same dichotomy in the U.S. because one party is saying, well, just raise all the minimum wages. You know, they have no understanding of economics and the fact that the free market works even if you set rents or set wages or things like that. And none of them will look at what the central bank is doing, which is taking the value out of the money. And then you can have high dollar amounts like in Zimbabwe. It doesn't make everybody rich.
True.
You know, the money's got to represent something.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but it seems like the educational system is saving people from having to think about that kind of stuff because it takes away what used to be common sense and logic and that sort of thing.
And it trains children to understand something that is fundamentally wrong.
Well, in our country, they're teaching that individual countries are bad.
Okay.
That if you're trying to have a country based on freedom and a good economy and prosperity and everything, you should forget about that, drop it, cut out your borders, and just be overwhelmed by everybody and then go into world tyranny. And that will make everybody happy.
Yeah, true.
That's where we're being taught that.
Yeah.
So it seems like education's kind of a big deal because if you're trying to win on coherent policies and everybody's educated to want their own destruction, you have to deal with education somewhere, right?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely have to do something about that, and that's why we are proposing a totally other educational system based on making sure children learn to think.
That would be incredible.
Yeah,
that would be totally incredible.
Yeah.
So, do you guys think about how to implement that in your party?
Well, I'm a huge fan of John Taylor Gatto, for example.
Yeah.
I forgot her first name, but Isabel is another her surname. And then, of course, Trivium. Children should learn Trivium. And there's a great page called triviumeducation.com where you can see an exam from 1895, I believe it was, from a small village in Kansas. And
how do you spell that website exactly?
Like Trivium, TRIVIUM, education.com.
Okay.
And there are a lot of good videos there, definitely.
Is that like bringing back the quality of the old education and things like that, or what is that about?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the old disciplines in education. But if you look at that exam for the 8th grade, it is something that I could not answer probably like more than 10-15% of that. I mean, it's really difficult. And this was eighth grading. You know, these people were studying by a little candle. You know, after they've been out
exactly
with their parents all day. You know,
and they didn't even have Wi-Fi. How could they study at all? Right?
Exactly. How could they?
Was that in the 1800s?
That was 1890s. Yeah, in Kansas, in a village. Actually, and it was even an exam for the people for the people who failed.
Wow. So that was a low level.
I don't know, but it was very, very difficult for me.
Yeah.
So I think you should have teachers who are trained to understand how the brain works, how children have different learning systems, so that you can. It's not important what the teacher teaches. It's not important what the teacher says. It's important what the child understands. And that's a totally new way of thinking in education.
Well, they're getting rid of real teachers completely in the U.S. to make sure that they don't have any problem with that. And what they're replacing them with is facilitators. So they give them basically checklists and requirements. Here are the books. Here are what you have to say about them. Here's what has to be believed at the end of the class. And if they deviate from that, they can be fired.
Mm.
So we used to have teachers where they were selected based on their personal qualifications, how good of a communicator they were, things like that. And that's almost completely gone now.
Yeah.
At least Yeah, kind of. It's amazing, and everybody in this country is being polarized into these two opposing parties, you know, and there are a few people in one party that kind of have some understanding of what's going on, and the president has huge gaps of understanding, but he has a good motivation, and that's why they want to kill him. Trump was not supposed to get elected, even though he probably had 4-1 more votes than the other party. Most of those were taken care of by machine hacking, and the machines were owned by organizations that wanted to make sure he didn't get elected, so they brought it down to almost even, and he still got in, which was shocking to the whole power structure. So, and the only reason the hacking didn't work was the landslide was so big that it was like not a percent when it was like multiples. And this lady, Kathy Griffin, was on TV showing the president's head cut off, and the New York Times sponsored a play in the Central Park for months with the assassination of the president and his wife over and over and over and over again. I mean, pretty serious stuff.
It's amazing. That's legal. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's legal. They just don't care if it's legal, because who's going to stand up against them is the idea, I think. And if they have such a huge power structure that they figure nobody is capable of doing that, and they would have destroyed, you know, most of the presidential people by now with all this slander that started on the first day after the election. But this guy, even though he's really unaware of a lot, and he thinks 5G is wonderful, and he supports corporations that do all this toxic stuff, it's not intentional. It's because he really doesn't know. And the people on the other side who are into all the environmental stuff, they can't figure out that the Paris Climate Accord is a total malicious fraud, horrible idea. And man-made climate change is happening, but it's called geoengineering. And it's being funded by trillions of dollars all over the world, and it's already decreased the sunlight by 24% or something.
Wow.
But man-made climate change is real, but it's nothing like what they're saying. It's geoengineering with vast fleets of planes blocking out the sun, making the weather destabilized so they can prove what they call climate change. They don't trust global warming anymore because what if it gets cold? Does that mean we can't have tyranny? So they've got to be covered for both directions. And they call it climate change, which is always happening. But they're making horrible climate disruption. I'm sure it's over Denmark too, with the geoengineering. And none of the presidents or Congress people or local governments will talk about that. It's just, and so this huge environmental group that I was supporting now says, well, we have to go into 100 times more debt or 1,000 times more debt to the Federal Reserve. That's going to be great because then we'll have all this free money and we can retrofit every building in the country, which is going to be fantastic. And we have to eliminate the borders of the country because we're being swamped like Europe is now with gangs and violent Islamic terrorists and people like that who come in trained to hate the country. They're burning the flag on their way in. They're not nice immigrants.
It's an invasion.
And it's an invasion paid for by the UN. And which is coming from the tax dollars of the member countries, people. And they say, well, what we have to do is welcome everybody who comes in there that way. They're just poor, immigrant people escaping their own country's conditions, where most of them now are coming from like half a world away, and they're being flown in or brought in on ships and everything. And it should be so obvious, just like 2 planes and 3 towers. But the environmental people can't see it because they've unconsciously accepted the talking points of their party, and they can't think outside of it. So when we had the heads of these big organizations on our show, they won't talk to me anymore because I questioned what they're saying.
Yeah, they get this feel good for saying what is accepted.
Yeah.
Everybody nod at them. Yeah.
And
the hoax is real, and that everybody's are nodding at them, and that they feel this great community. Yeah, we all agree that.
I know.
Climate,
I think it's got an emotional basis that you can see where the programming is logical, or to get rid of logic. But I think there's a deeper level of it, and I think the so-called 5G and the other Gs before that are playing a big part. Because we had Barry Trower, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was on our show, right? And other 5G people, and saying by World War II, they had perfected the wireless weaponry to the point where they could make you into an assassin or commit suicide or go commit some, suicide mission or something with no problem. That was in 1940s, and it's later than that now by a lot. Right. And so now there was a whistleblower who came out in the U.S. from Seattle, and apparently the government approved of him and agreed with him because he was totally destroyed very quickly. All of his posts were wiped off social media and all over the internet, and totally scrubbed. Brian Coffron, you probably can't find a reference to him anywhere now. Kofron. Kofron. Brian. Yeah, very courageous guy. He was working for a company in Seattle that was masquerading as what they called a private security company. And he couldn't stand what he was doing anymore because they couldn't get rid of his conscience completely. And he came out and said, look, this is what we're doing. We're using this wireless radiation, this RF radiation.
So what was Brian Coffron saying?
He was saying, look, I was working for this company that pretended to be a private security company. But these are in all the cities around the country now, and the experiment is to see how can we control the minds and emotions of multiple millions of people at once instead of one. And it's being successful. And in the U.S., we're seeing these groups in the street that are violently protesting, and it's not even a protest, it's just what do you call it? Terrorism, organized terrorism, and they're being paid for by people higher up in the power structure, and they think they're fighting fascism. Anyway, they're out committing violence in the street for the sake of peace and happiness and prosperity and freedom and climate change and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't plan on saying all this stuff. I don't mean to interrupt you at all, but it's relevant. It's part of this. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So, I mean, to get a handle on the problem for the sake of the solution, which is really the only good reason to get into the problem, is they're taking away the ability to think and more importantly, to perceive what's going on, so that the emotional programming takes over and they're looking at something, thinking it's something else.
Yeah.
And this environmental group has more than 1 million members, and they won't communicate with me because I'm against the Green New Deal. I think it's terrible. It would give the government, for example, complete control of the medical system. And of course, they'd have to have total surveillance over everything you did. But, you're talking about forced treatments of different kinds. There would be no way out, because that would be the only source of medicine.
In the land of free, huh?
Yeah, just for everybody's benefit, so that all the poor people can have treatment. That's how it's promoted. Fluoride helps a little bit to lower IQ. That's been coming out in many studies recently. But this programming doesn't want to wait for that. It's taken away the essential IQ element very fast. And
I think the brain is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it,
Yeah, and they've devised exercises for it that destroy it. So they're using it, but in a counterintuitive way.
Yeah.
Like over and over and over repetition of stuff that's not true.
Yeah, that must destroy intelligence. It really must.
You can see it. Because there are 7 billion people in the world, they shouldn't be able to be manipulated like this.
No.
But they are.
Yeah, they really are.
And they just got different styles of it in different countries. Like in Africa, like in South Africa, they're just revving up racism. Now it's against people with light skin. Used to be against people with dark skin. And the media in America is trying to teach you that one of those racisms is racism. The other one is justice. I don't know if they're doing that in Denmark or not.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you're light-skinned, and especially if you're male, you're really a bad person.
I think I'm the only person I know of in Denmark who have told Danes about how the black people are now killing white farmers.
But you're not supposed to talk about those things.
No, definitely not supposed. People don't care. I even have some people saying, "Yeah, that's fair."
It is. Yeah, exactly.
A farmer who's been living on this land for 400 years, which is about 350 years before the blacks arrived, because 80 or 90% of the black people arrived after 1940.
You're talking about the Boers that came in, right?
The Boers came in the 1600s, right? So they've been there 350 years longer than the black people have. So it's it's amazing.
And it is amazing, and we've got these groups in America now demonstrating that the program is working really well, because they're just filled with a combination of fear and hate, and they're trying to outlaw things they call hate, which are things that make sense. And anything that they don't want to hear, it's called hate speech. And certain words are being eliminated from acceptable language, and it's really an amazingly widespread program, and I guess it's going on in your country too.
Yeah, definitely, all the time. It's horrible. Even today, you had a former head of Greenpeace coming out saying that climate change is a hoax. So
he needs good security if he's going to be saying things like that.
Yeah. He said it now, so it's too late to kill him. Yeah, but it's already.
Yeah, but I want us to have a solution. You mentioned early on, if people in government would just be basically nice people and care about everybody, that would be an incredible advance.
Yeah, that would be a huge advance, and obey the law, not the law of the sea, but the law of the land, the common law. Right. That would be nice. And the American Constitution, we should live up to that all over the world. So you have alienable rights.
Yeah. The idea that you're born with rights that come from God or nature and not from government.
Yeah.
I mean, the United Nations is really irritated with that. They said there's a declaration of, what do they call it? Some kind of declaration of rights, and it all comes from the United Nations. So they can withdraw any of them that are really in your benefit to lose them. And I think you're right, because, you know, people talk about a constitutional republic being wonderful. Well, not necessarily. I mean, in America, we were fortunate that we had imperfect founders, but they were really wise about a lot of stuff, and they put the First and Second and Third and Fourth and Fifth all the way down to the 10th Amendments, and they said the government is restricted to the enumerated powers. It can't do anything else. It's not the other way around. They don't have all powers not restricted. They have only the powers specified. That's, of course, ignored in the U.S., but it's a good concept. And whether a constitutional republic is good depends on who writes the Constitution. Because you could also have a constitution that says, kill all this minority group or something, and that's for your benefit. That would make that constitutional republic as bad as a tyranny. Yeah, but if you have one that's got good concepts, it's incredible.
Absolutely.
If we followed it, it would be really neat.
Yeah.
And I guess what kind of constitution does Denmark operate on right now?
Well, ours is from 1848, and then there have been amendments 3 or 4 times since then, and every single time going backwards, giving the Queen of Denmark more power. So right now, it's legally the Queen is in control right now.
Okay, so you kind of have a monarchy.
We do have a monarchy. Legally, we have a monarchy that is a dictatorship, legally. But it seems that this red-blue Fata Morgana hoax is a democracy. This is what people believe. But legally, the Queen is in charge.
Is there a king?
No, it's a queen since 1972, I think. No, her name is Queen Margaret II.
But it could be a king within the same power structure, right?
She has 2 sons, so it will be Frederick will be the next.
And was her husband at one point the king or not?
No, he was a prince. He died last year, I think, or early this year. He was French.
So what made him a prince instead of a king? I'm just trying to understand the basics of how.
Well, I think if he was a king, he would be the monarch. So his title was prince, and he was He was.
And then what's the connection of Margaret II to the Queen of England, if any?
I'm sure they're related. You know, maybe it's third cousins or something. I don't know.
Okay, but there's no connection in how they control the countries or anything. They're independent. They can do what they want.
Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. I just know that legally the Queen is in control.
Okay.
It's not so clear exactly how much she decides, but she has time to meet with the Danish government once a week. So I don't know why are they coming for tea once a week with the Queen? It seems a little bit overdoing it, doesn't it? So I think they're talking about important stuff as well.
So it makes you wonder if she's laying out the guidelines for what they need to do for the next period before they have tea again.
Yeah, I mean, if the world is run by 300 families, then it will be great just to go to the Queen and she meets with the government once a week and tells them what to do, and that's it.
Yeah, and of course, even a monarchy, this idea that only a constitutional republic is good, it's because we saw what the U.S. Constitution had on the good side was really impressive. But even a monarchy, until the next generation comes in, can be wonderful if you get some super wise, benevolent, selfless monarch.
That's right.
It could be incredibly quickly, it could be great. But the problem is when that's happened in the past, usually the son or the daughter comes up and they're a psychopath and they want to just kill everybody.
Yeah, like Caligula or something like that, yeah. yeah, there was some studies done on islands in the Pacific, and it turned out that the islands that had a royal family did much better. because they would take care of the little island. The islands are so small that you knew every single area of the island, and you knew how many people it could sustain, how much food there was.
Yeah.
So they made sure that everything was. They had infanticide to make sure the population was stable on a certain level. But in the islands without a king, a royal family, it would go. They wouldn't do very well. It would turn into. They would maybe have too many children, and then the food supply would stop because they would cut all the trees down and eat all the food and kill all the animals.
So one of the things, you really need two components at least of a better world, I guess. One is a ruling structure like a good constitution that's going to outlive one generation of benevolent rulers. And then you have to have representatives in the government and in the population as a whole that have enough consciousness to honor it and not just circumvent it.
Yeah. So we are a long way away from that.
Yeah. So it's really a consciousness issue, isn't it? Because if you had people who were self-aware on a higher level, they wouldn't be attracted to control things by evil.
That's right.
It wouldn't appeal to them to hurt people.
And most people don't want to hurt people, but most people are followers, sadly. So.
Well, yeah, and the ones that are in power tend to be ones that are willing to hurt people if the pay is good.
Yeah, definitely. But also, I mean, the whole structure is just unbelievable. I mean, in Denmark, you have one guy sitting in the Department of Health that decides which natural remedies are allowed in Denmark. Just one person. No educational background, nothing. So we have this war on herbs and nuts and natural remedies.
Right.
So that's very easy for the big pharma to control. It's just one person. And then we have a Codex Alimentarius, which is a little organization in Switzerland that decides the health standards, how much poison they're allowed to put in the food, and it's a lot.
I think that group also controls what strength of vitamins and stuff that you're allowed to have, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and how much radiation you're allowed to give the food into your country, and that's a lot as well. So it's basically in Denmark, it's two old people sitting out in Frederiksberg. I have a friend who visited them. So two old people have basically no clue, pretty much. I mean, they're not scientists, they have no educational background. It's unbelievable. And they're sitting there.
Which two people are you talking about, and what are their titles?
So these are the two people representing Codex Alimentarius. Obviously, they take their orders from Switzerland, so I mean, they don't have that much power, I suppose, but it's just a very limited amount of people, actually. The evil forces need to control a country like Denmark. It's not a big country, 5.7 million people, but we're talking about like a handful of people who decides about the health in food and medicine. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and they know at the top levels that if you don't eat the right food and if you eat a lot of poison and junk food, that your brain is not going to work very well because the same blood supply from the rest of your body supplies your brain. And you're not going to be as much of a threat questioning things so much.
That's right.
And it's good for the medical industry too, because you're going to be susceptible to sickness, and then they can blame the germs and say you need more injections, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're having a party who, if I understand your political party, your goal is to make life better and to bring back sanity, a few things like that, right?
Yeah.
Do you have like small groups in that party that get together and think about how to do that? Just kind of like, you know.
We meet on a regular basis, every second week roughly, and we talk. And another problem is that there's so many different areas to look into. And most people have a life that is very demanding. They have to work long hours, and they have to go home, commute, and they have to look after their spouse and their children, maybe their parents, and they want to also have time to do some sport to stay fit. And
right.
How much time are really left to study all these various topics? So that means that even the people who are most awake, most of them are actually only awake in a very tiny area. So some people know a lot about health and natural foods, and they're normally vegetarians and stuff like that. And then you have other people who are very much against 5G. You have a few people who are very much against the wars, and some people who understand the monetary system, but very, very few people who understand more than one or two pop topics, to be honest with you. It's so difficult.
That's a big issue, a big problem.
Yeah.
Because what they need to do is put the dots together.
Exactly. And what I'm trying to do is I'm saying there's only one dot, and that is we are run by a mafia. They're psychopaths. Some of them are even pedophiles and sacrificing people.
A lot.
And they're cannibals, and they're really, really horrible people. And that's really the basic thing we have to understand. And if you look at any of these topics you will find out that there are criminal intent behind it. Yeah. And then you can see, do you really have to look at the next one? Okay, be my guest. But once you look into 2 or 3 different areas, please then trust that it's all over. And that is my biggest surprise over the last 4 years where I've been involved in this, is that people won't, they just won't. They have all this reservation. Yes, I know they're criminals, psychopaths running this area, like let's say the military-industrial complex, but I will not trust you on 5G. And then you have the people who know they're criminal and psychopath on 5G, but they won't trust you when you talk about Codex Alimentarius and the food and so on. So it's like, what are you going to do on the vaccines? Yeah, it's like you can be against 5G but still vaccinate your children.
Yeah.
It's like, it's crazy. It's
exactly. Crazy. It makes you feel like you're living in a mental hospital of some kind with very sick patients. And your job is to cure them. Because if you don't cure them and you try to get them into a sensible structure and they're still seriously disturbed mental patients, you might not have very good results.
Oh. Right? And these are the most healthy ones you're talking about.
Yeah, this is the best one.
These are the best ones.
and they really are programmed to fight all the time. It's like the ones who know about one issue, like the organic stuff, who say the Green New Deal has to happen right away all over the world, and we have to, this insanity, basically. And these other ones who think that, like you're saying about the 5G, they like to fight because the other guys don't know what's really important. My issue is the most important one. Your issue is like a diversion. And they just jump right into fighting. It's like the idea of harmony, the simple solutions are like all-inclusive.
Yeah.
Like if you had harmony and clarity of vision and understanding that the other person is you in another form, literally on a deeper level.
No.
You wouldn't be trying to hurt them.
No, that's true. But it has come to now it's self-defense. I mean, these people are really hurting the planet. They're hurting people. They're hurting nature.
Yeah.
So it's really, really getting very bad now.
I think they're the most seriously ill people in the hospital. It's like if you dug through their mountains of programming, I think they would be just like us. But that's hard for most people to see because they see this seemingly endless programming and they say, well, that's an evil person. No, that's I don't want to alienate anybody by terms, but if you call who we really are like something immaterial, pure spirit, above mind and body and everything, living in it for the moment, experiencing and acting through it, that same ultimate essence is in absolutely everybody because there wasn't more than one source it all came from. But they're so programmed that they're playing the part very convincingly of the totally evil individuals. Yeah. And if we had the ultimate solution, I think rather than destroying the so-called bad guys, we would heal all the patients, playing all the roles. That's what I'd really like to see. And I think it's possible. But
yeah, I mean, at the same time, you're right. There are a lot of people who are waking up now. More and more.
Not against self-defense. It's essential. That's why everybody's being disarmed, so that you can't defend yourself.
Yeah.
But the self-defense is essential, but it's not the answer to curing the patients. I think on a deeper level. Do you remember in the news, they used to have newspapers, right, that would get thrown on your driveway and you'd go out there and pick them up in the morning. And one of the things in there besides crossword puzzles is they'd have a chess puzzle. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
They'd have a little board and the black and white pieces on it and say, 3 moves to win.
Mm-hmm.
This is our chess puzzle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I hope there are only 3 moves to win. Yeah,
that would be good. That would be good.
Yeah.
And it's not more fighting. It's got to be something that transcends it. But not a belief system that's just to make you feel better. It's got to have practical application.
Well, I was hoping for a quick fix with Trump, and he would just drain all the swamp and jail Hillary Clinton and jail Obama, and then the whole world would wake up, and he would go out and say, "Well, 9/11 was an inside job."
Well, it's an example of what you just said, because he understands some areas. Yeah. He knows why you have to have a secure country, why you have to have sovereignty, why he pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, which was great. He stopped TPP, which was another supranational government. He did a lot of great things, and he's talking about the border being secure. But he's got these huge areas that he apparently doesn't understand at all, and I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, if it was just some nefarious, selfish thing, he would not be living on 10 Diet Cokes and fast food every day.
No.
That's not selfish, that's ignorant.
Is he living on Diet Coke and fast food every day?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of the people are saying, well, they think he's so bad, he's keeping the 5G out of right around Mar-a-Lago or something to save himself. This is total nonsense. Yeah, I mean, 5G is all over the White House in Washington, D.C., and he spends all his time there. And he's unaware of it. He just thinks this many new jobs, this great, beautiful, successful company moving in, it's going to get our economy back. And he's right, but you have to make this.
He's pretty busy as well, right? I mean,
he's very busy.
Understand if he doesn't have time to look into all. He
delegates decisions and research to nefarious criminals, and then he realizes later, after they've done a lot of damage, that they were evil.
Yeah.
And like Bolton was trying to push him into war in Syria, Afghanistan, all these other places to ramp it up and make it nuclear as soon as possible. That was his objective. So he finally figured it out and fired him. Replaced him with a guy that may even be worse.
Really?
Yeah, that is very similar to the characters portrayed in Dr. Strangelove.
Well, what's his name?
It starts with a K. I don't remember it. You can look it up easily, but maybe he won't last long. But I'm sure he was highly recommended by somebody.
Wow.
Yeah. You remember the movie Dr. Strange?
How much has of the wall has been built down in Mexico?
Almost none. I mean,
I thought.
No, they have repaired places where it was falling over and full of holes and everything. Some of that has been repaired, which the Border Patrol said had to be done first because it was in critical spots. But he's been, this is another example of law just being ignored, because in the Constitution, one of the president in the U.S.'s first jobs and absolute requirements, he could be impeached and, gotten in a lot of trouble for not following it, is repel invasions.
Yeah.
You must do that first. Well, there's a UN, funded invasion using U.S. taxpayer dollars to go to the UN and then be paid for the invasions and bring kids so that the people who are really out of touch say, what? This is just some little kids at the border. I mean, what's wrong with this stupid president? But in reality, it's this massive invasion with training camps for it in Central and South America, teaching them to hate America and then move in. And his job is to take whatever money it takes to 2,200 miles of border wall right away. That's a minimum expected.
So why hasn't he done? He's been what that? It's like
he keeps giving orders. He keeps giving orders and they get ignored. Like he said, all right, give me at least a couple billion from the Defense Department. Well, the Defense Department's full of traitors. And they just recently said, well, we've determined that it's too expensive and we can't afford it. And
they can't find $6,000 billion, right?
No, they can't.
20 billion, according to Catherine Austin Fitz. Have you also interviewed her?
I don't have a good contact for her to get her on the show. I'd like to.
She's corporate report.
I'm familiar with her, but haven't reached her yet.
It would be great, to have on your show.
She'd be really good. She'd be really good.
I think she has established that $20,000 billion have been overspent in the Pentagon.
Yeah. And that was one of the really successful functions of the 9/11 airplanes, is they got rid of some of that data, and the right people and everything. But
and also the motivation for looking into it, because the people who were looking into it were killed.
Yeah, coincidence, right?
Yeah.
So we have to solve these problems, but Trump has the government seal of approval because they keep trying to get him killed. They let people stay on social media who want to advocate his death and the death of everybody in his party, and all these terrible things about him that are made up. And then if they have to, they put a little retraction where nobody will ever see it, and then they do it again. And so his motivation is good, and that was not allowed ever in the government. But the problem is he's got these giant areas of ignorance, like geoengineering and 5G and all this stuff. And if he ever got around people that explained it to him, he'd probably act on it right away. Some of his old close advisors have said, when he learns what's really happening with something, he just acts on it. That's why he wasn't wanted to be president by the power structure. But they are keeping people around him that keep the information away from him quite successfully. He's the only president and person in the government that said he would look into the safety of vaccines. He was going to have Robert Kennedy Jr., who's doing great work in this country, of the opposing party, lead a commission to look into the safety. That was killed.
Yeah.
Hasn't done that.
That was a shame.
Yeah, but he's a good man. And people don't understand that when they see him not accomplishing these things. But
I hope you're right. I hope it works out. Because if he doesn't save the day, then we're left with very, very tiny group of...
Not many. I mean, in government.
But telling,
Matteo Salvini in Italy was looking pretty good, and he's out now, I think.
Yeah.
Bolsonaro in Brazil was almost killed because they recognized he was running for office.
Mm-hmm.
Still there. But yeah, it's a challenge. And it'll be really interesting to see how things develop and what you guys decide on for strategies as time goes on, because did you see the movie Avatar?
Yeah.
Remember when Jake and everything was burning and he came back for the last time and was going to try to make things better, and he was explaining to the what was the name of that animal that he rode on? The flying one, He said, you're not going to like this. There's some things that we have to do. And he says, sometimes when it gets really bad, you have to take things to a whole new level. And a lot of people think, well, that's more violence, It's totally not violence. It's a level of consciousness where we bring together the consciousness realizations with physical effect and make it work. And not just a belief system that's going to make you feel passive while it's all destroyed. So hopefully we can get that combination.
Yeah, I really hope that. I'm beginning to have my doubts that we will succeed, but...
not by normal means, I don't think.
We have to fight, man.
So anytime, that if your party is doing some big development or something that you want any more exposure, or you want a recording for exposure that you can share with them or something like that, please let us know, because
thanks a lot, Rich.
Anything you can do to help would be great. What as a bottom line for all the stuff that we've talked about, and I kept you over time a little, what do you want people to most remember out of this discussion?
Well, I mean, the bottom line for me is that don't believe the government, don't believe the people in power, don't believe the mainstream media, do your own research. The world is literally run by criminal mafia with criminal intent. They are psychopaths. And this is you can see that in all areas of society. And this is the most important thing I want people to at least look into.
Right, and then help us figure out a solution, and it's not more fighting. It's got to be a whole other level of solution.
Well, I think the solution will come when most people start saying, just like we did the 9/11, 2 planes and 3 towers. How old are you? When we start making aggressive fun of the other people, the way they've been treating us by abusing us and bullying us and calling us names like conspiracy theorists and whatever, they are bullying us, and all we're trying to do is reveal the truth. We are the real journalists. We're the real freedom fighters. We're talking about what's really going on, and it's all fact-based. Nothing is a theory anymore. We don't have to come with any theories because there are so many facts. We don't even have to speculate. We can communicate, only communicating in facts. We don't have to come with any theories at all. And still they call us nicknames. So I think what we need to do is we need to have a lot of people waking up, and as soon as only a few people on each work has woken up, and they can say, just if only 2 people on a factory or on a bank or whatever will say 2 planes and 3 towers. How old are you? Yeah. If 2 people start saying that, then all the majority are looking at each other. I mean, even 2 people could just sway the whole group.
Yeah.
We are so close, so we have to keep fighting.
I think the power structure would agree with you because they're really trying to push censorship through now as quickly as possible. And if it's a fact, if it's a proven fact, then it's defined as a hate fact. You can't use it, right? And memes are being made illegal. Memes like phrases like you mentioned put into a video graphic. Those are being made censored off social media now. So I think that's a seal of approval that what you're saying is true.
I mean, we have a small party in Sweden that's very much like ours called Populisterna, and one of their board members, Fridtjof Persson, he had his YouTube closed down a few weeks ago. You have Gemma O'Doherty in Ireland, who started Anti-Corruption Ireland. She's a very famous Irish journalist from the Irish Independent, and she was even a presidential candidate, supported by 17 members of parliament in Ireland. So she's a very, very well-known woman in Ireland, and she has a political party called Anti-Corruption Ireland. You should get her on your show if you want.
Yeah, introduce me.
Gemma O'Doherty, yeah. And
any of those contacts that you can give me, I'll try to give them exposure. And are some of them people that understand how all these dots fit together?
Oh, big time. They're very smart people. And Gemma also had her YouTube channel closed down, even including a video with me where more than 100,000 Irish people had seen it. And now she has been now for 6 weeks standing in front of Google headquarters in Ireland, protesting against the closure of her YouTube channel. This is the second time they did it. The first time she went down there and demonstrated, they opened it. But now the second time they then closed it, and now it seems to be for good.
Yeah. They're starting to do that to members of Congress now in the U.S. It's pretty interesting.
It's unbelievable. And it's unbelievable they can get away with it. A private corporation like that, it's unbelievable.
They do. I mean, the biggest known criminals in the U.S. don't have any penalties at all.
No.
Yeah, we got some work to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm really glad you came back. I hope we can talk again soon, and hold on and say goodbye in the break here.
Good to see you.
Okay, you guys, there goes Mads Palsvig, and now I remember why I enjoyed the last interview with him so much. An actual politician or a potential politician who is a great person. I mean, that's really more rare than most people realize, and in any party. I mean, it's incredible that the person is not controlled by the blinders of their party policies and talking points. just interested in whatever's really going on and what would help people of the world have a better life and preserve the biosphere of the world, and businesses run with good ethics and those fantastic ideas that we'd like to see come back to the world. I really blew it by not asking him for his website, but Doug was checking, and we can't really see a website right now. I hope he gets one, because those are more stable than the social media pages. But at the moment, he's got Facebook under Mass Palsvig, which is spelled like Mads Palsvig. It's MADS .PALSVIG. He's got a YouTube channel, which is still up, and just search under his name, MADS PALSVIG. And he's on Twitter, twitter.com/Palsvig, PALSVIG. We're going to start getting his party's newsletter, and we'll share it with you guys so that anybody who wants to read it. Apparently it's not all in Danish, because my Danish isn't too good. I don't know any Danish words at all, I don't think. But a lot of it's in English, so we'll share that with you. People like that deserve all the support they can get, in my opinion. And remember that we'll keep going with these Sunday shows and inspiring guests and organizations as long as we can. If you want to support our work and keep us on the air, which I would really appreciate, because we're working a lot with no pay for most of what we're doing here. We have a Subscribe Star page that you could support if you feel like it. And you can read about the details of that, subscribestar.com/LostArtsRadio. And our main site is lostartsradio.com. And if you go there, you can get on our mailing list, which we're not really using right now. But if we get banned off other channels, which I'm being really bad about saying things that could get us banned, I'm sure. And if you get on that mailing list, we can probably embed videos and still get stuff to you at lostartsradio.com. And you can get all the, Blog Talk radio archives and video archives and stuff off that main site. If you want to know about the private group that we're running to specifically deal with forbidden health information and things from the research that I can't talk about publicly as easily, check that out, the access point at planetaryhealingclub.com, planetaryhealingclub.com. That's the access point. It does charge small dues to be in that club, which hopefully let us do the projects and keep operating that we want to do. But if you have any questions about whether that would be worth your time or not, and what kind of stuff we talk about, you can email and just ask me if you want to. Richard@lostartsradio.com, and I'll tell you the best I can of whether it's something that you would like or would be worth your time. What else? We're also on Brighteon.com, which is a non-censoring video platform, which it really needs everybody's support, which means just use it. Watch videos there, post videos there. That actually supports them, keeps it going. Mike started a great project there, has put massive amounts of money and time into it. And our channel on Brighteon is Brighteon, BRIGHTEON.com/channel/Lost Arts Radio. And you want to bookmark that and watch for live stream capability, which is coming, he's guessing maybe, I think, in January or something like that, which you'll be here before you know it. It's almost 2020. I guess that's the main part. Stay in touch with what Mass is doing and through those channels and pages that I gave you, because anybody with that widespread understanding of how all the different sub-agendas fit together and the good motive that is supportive of everybody and wants us all to do well, that's a spirit that's needed in positions of power in corporations and governments all over the world. So when you find one like Mass Palsvig, keep in touch with what they're doing and support them. That's what I would suggest. I think that's about it. Thanks for staying with us through a long broadcast tonight. I think it was very valuable, and hopefully it'll inspire and help a lot of people. And I really appreciate you being the center of this whole project. Support us on Subscribe Star if you can, and hope that we'll see you at some point on Planetary Healing Club. I hope you have a great week, and watch for videos during the week, which we'll put out whenever time allows. And otherwise, we'll see you on the next Saturday and Sunday shows. Saturday's show, by the way, is Lost Arts Radio Live at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern on many platforms. And that is Lost Arts Radio Live. It's about events in the world and implications of what's happening. You might find that interesting. Anyway, thanks for being here, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Introducing Lost Arts Radio on Subscribestar.com. Just go to Subscribestar.com/LostArtsRadio to find our rewards program, offering 10 different giving levels starting at just $5 a month. We offer incredible value for any rewards level, from extra monthly interview videos not available publicly to subscription-based Planetary Healing Club videos once, twice, or 3 times a month, to private counseling sessions with Lost Arts Radio host Richard Sachs, to tech help with me, Doug Diamond. We even have one option where you can be the star on Lost Arts Radio as our guest on a specially produced show just for you. We conduct an interview with you and broadcast it to our growing network and listenership. Our Subscribestar levels are one of a kind and offer great rewards for any budget. Please help support Lost Arts Radio. We can't do it without you. With increasing censorship on many of our channels, we really need your support today to keep doing what we're doing. As Richard says, we're not even at survival level yet. Lost Arts Radio has 3 weekly shows. Lost Arts Radio Live each Saturday night at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, which is a live stream currently on multiple platforms in case we get banned from some of the larger ones. Right now, we're on 2 YouTube channels, Facebook Live, Periscope, which is Twitter, Twitch, and DLive. You can access these broadcasts by going to www.lostartsradio.com/live for all the links to those channels. The Planetary Healing Club meets right after Lost Arts Radio Live at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Saturday nights. And our Sunday show with guests airs at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Sunday nights on our Blog Talk Radio channel, our YouTube channels, Facebook pages, and on Brighteon. Be sure to sign up for our free email list just in case we do get banned on big tech's platforms. It's just a matter of time, really. They don't like the stuff we talk about, and they do not want the truth out there. In fact, they have already attacked us numerous times. Join our free email list so we can let you know where we are and how to access our shows. The sign up button is right on the top right on most pages of our website. The best starting point for all things Lost Arts Radio is our main site, lostartsradio.com, where you can find the hottest news selection videos that we curate just for you. Those are on the homepage and added to daily, as well as articles and breaking news about information you really need to know. Our show archives, the 10 most recent shows, are right on our homepage, as well as our Blog Talk Radio page at blogtalkradio.com/lostartsradio, or just click the All Things Radio Show tab right on our website. We're in the podcast directory on iTunes, and all of our shows except the banned ones are on our YouTube channels at Lost Arts Radio and at Diamond Disc. Our Brighteon page is really taking off, and we often have editors' picks videos right on their homepage. Visit brighteon.com/channel/LostArtsRadio. On our site, you can also access our free listener forum as well as sign up for the Planetary Healing Club, which is just $25 a month, where you get private access to a one-on-one interaction with host Richard Sachs and myself and the other club members who participate live. More info can be found at planetaryhealingclub.com. We're providing solutions in there to make the world a better place. Come join us. Stay tuned, because up next, you'll get to hear a really great song by an independent artist that we're doing our best to support. Go to lostartsradio.com/music for the full list of all the great songs and bands that we spin on our audio-only podcast shows. If you're in a band and want to submit a song for consideration for airplay on Lost Arts Radio, visit my website at diamonddiscaudio.com for more information about the music placement, mastering, and mixing work that I do. Thanks again for listening to and supporting Lost Arts Radio. We love having you as part of our family to learn, experience, and grow with.
Don't care what people say. All I wanna do is walk my way and get ready to be surprised. Things don't look too good these days. Humankind's chasing its own tail. But get ready to be surprised. I don't care about the past. Old memories turn to dust. Baby, get ready to be surprised. Say, all I wanna do is live for today and get ready to be surprised. Now it's time to let it all go. Feel the love is all there is to know and get ready to be surprised. I don't care about the past. Old memories turn to dust. Baby, get ready to be surprised. Nothing's gonna stop me anymore. I'm driving on a road I've never seen before. Get ready to be surprised. To be surprised. Be surprised. Well, my friend, what will you do? You can join this tune. It's all about you. And get ready to be surprised.